Hello and welcome back to 3 News Now. I'm Stephanie Haney. Today is Tuesday, May 25th. Thank you for being here for the top stories from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. We start off today by remembering that today is the 1-year anniversary of the police killing of George Floyd, something that former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin was found guilty of on 3 separate counts. And as we look at that today, we take a look at where police reform is in Ohio. This is courtesy of an article by Jake Zuckerman of the Ohio Capital Journal. About a month after George Floyd was killed, Governor Mike DeWine introduced a package of proposals that he said would impose accountability on police. And as of today, the 1-year anniversary of Floyd's death, none of those proposals have become law or even gone up for a vote. Again, in mid-April of 2021, just last month, DeWine outlined a similar package that he said would be reintroduced in this current 2-year legislative session. 2 months later, no legislation has been publicly introduced. DeWine said Monday at a press briefing that he is optimistic that things will shake out differently this time. He says, I think that a lot of work has been done on this bill by members of the legislature. A lot of work has been done on this bill by our administration. It's a bill that is sound. It will really put Ohio at the forefront of reform in this area. Here's a breakdown of what those different packages called for, both last summer and this spring from DeWine. Psychological evaluations for new police recruits, permanent funding for enhanced officer training, establishing a standard definition of a use of force and requiring reporting into a statewide use of force database, banning officers from using chokeholds with rare exceptions, requiring independent investigations into officers' use of force and possibly independent prosecutions into those officers, mandating that officers wear body cameras, and developing a law enforcement oversight and accountability board. Now, as a reminder, the charges that Derek Chauvin were found guilty of include second-degree unintentional murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter in the killing of George Floyd. 3 more officers who were there that day faced charges, and their trials will begin later. It has been reported that Derek Chauvin's defense team plans to appeal his convictions. Here in Northeast Ohio, the family of University of Cincinnati soccer player who was reported to have drowned over the weekend has set up a GoFundMe in her honor. Her name, from Strongsville, Ally Sidloski, and the GoFundMe is to honor her legacy with soccer scholarships. Now, soccer, a big part of her family, a high school decorated soccer athlete, the third in her family to go on to play soccer at the collegiate level. Her family says that they want her legacy to live on by creating scholarships in her name. Now, in about 24 hours, it's raised over $68,000 on the GoFundMe page. She's a Strongsville High School graduate. She was a member of the Cleveland Football Club and played at the University of Cincinnati. She was also a Top Cat scholar for multiple semesters for a 4.0 GPA, but her family says most importantly, she was a loving granddaughter, daughter, sister, cousin, and friend. Her body was found early on Sunday morning in Batavia Township at East Fork Lake. The Ohio Department of Natural Resources says she was last seen hanging onto the swim platform of a boat before disappearing into the water. Here in Cleveland, Cleveland City Council President Kevin Kelly is subpoenaing several employees and records connecting to the HB6 bribery scheme. Now, this is connected to the ongoing investigation into former Ohio Speaker of the House, current Representative Larry Householder, and the bribery scheme to bail out several failing power and coal plants that were formerly operated by First Energy's subsidiary, First Energy Solutions, and then later spun off into the independent company now known as Energy Harbor. Kelly said that we now know that Generation Now seemed to be the first stop for a huge amount of money that was passed out. They want to know where it went and if it was used against the city of Cleveland and Cleveland Public Power. That was in a statement provided to 3 News. The subpoenas are requesting any and all financial records, including bank account numbers and account transaction records of consumers against deceptive fees. Governor DeWine is speaking out against a legislative attempt to block the Vax-A-Million drawings here in Ohio, saying he respectfully disagrees about considerations over the use of the funds. This effort comes from State Representative Powell, a Republican, that wants to block the drawings from taking place. It would prohibit the lottery and redirect the funding to other causes. Now, this was first reported by Ohio Capital Journal on Saturday. Powell didn't respond to their request for comment, but did share the report and said the vaccine lottery is a frivolous use of taxpayer dollars. DeWine said that he disagrees with this on Monday and said that the state increases in the vaccination rate among every race and age demographic have been seen since the program was introduced. And DeWine said that if a bill does come through to his desk that would block the COVID vaccine lottery, he will veto it. Now, the first winners have already been drawn. They were drawn yesterday, and they will be announced on Wednesday at 7:29 p.m. That will be for a $1 million prize and also an up to 4-year college scholarship for a person between the ages of 12 and 17. Now let's take a look at the latest COVID-19 numbers. These first numbers come from Johns Hopkins University. Globally, there have now been a total of 167,454,138 reported COVID-19 cases. The U.S. makes up 19.8% of those cases with 33,151,903. There have been a total of 3,476,320 global deaths related to COVID-19. The U.S. makes up 17% of those deaths with 590,586. Here in Ohio, the Ohio Department of Health reports 727 new COVID-19 cases in the last day. That's up from yesterday. And we have new reporting on the number of deaths. That number is now 19,753 confirmed Ohio deaths related to COVID-19. That's 44 more than was reported on Friday. Right now, there have been 126 new hospitalizations in the last day. That number is up with a total of 786 people currently hospitalized with COVID-19. Of those people, 228 are being treated in an ICU, and we've seen 13 new ICU admissions in the last day. Now let's take a look at that COVID-19 vaccination picture. About 39% of Ohioans are completely vaccinated. That's close to 4.6 million people, and 20,000 more people completely vaccinated in the last day. More than 44% of Ohioans have started the vaccination process. That's more than 5.2 million people, and almost 25,000 people got that first shot in the last day. Now, if you haven't yet entered the vaccine lottery, but you have had at least one COVID-19 vaccination shot, here's how to do it. You won't be eligible to be one of the winners announced tomorrow. That drawing has already taken place, but you will be eligible for the remaining 4 weeks in the drawing. Right now, we know about half of adults who are eligible have entered for that first drawing with that winner to be announced tomorrow. But the way to register is to go to Ohio VaxAMillion.com. That's VAX, Ohio VaxAMillion.com. Or you can call the Ohio Department of Health. That number, 1-833-4-ASK-ODH. That's 1-833-427-5634. Now we're going to turn to the world of sports. Kind of. The intersection of sports and crime. 3 News Investigates has learned that former Cleveland Browns quarterback Bernie Kosar is offering his home to an imprisoned mobster seeking early release. Kosar wrote a letter of offering his support for the release of Kevin McTaggart. Now, he served as a top lieutenant to mobster boss Danny Green and later was connected to underworld boss Angelo Leonardo. Kosar says Kevin McTaggart is a changed man after 38 years in prison and deserves a second chance despite killings and drug dealing for the mob. Now, it was at the age of 26 that McTaggart was convicted in 1983 for taking part in pretty ruthless killings of 6 people and trafficking large amounts of drugs worth millions of dollars every year. Now he's 64 years old and he's seeking release from his lifelong prison sentence through the U.S. District Court. The request was made earlier this year. No decision has been made right now, but Kosar in his letter said he believes that McTaggart is reformed and worthy of a second chance, that he could live on his property in Mantua and work as his property manager, which he called a win-win arrangement. Kosar said he's well aware of the circumstances of his incarceration and believes that after 38 years in custody, he's paid his debt to society. He believes in giving people a second chance in life. He says deserving people a second chance. He says he feels confident Kevin will continue to live a righteous life, which he has exhibited during incarceration. And he says, I believe he has much he can still contribute to society. For more on the underworld of Cleveland, you have to check out Rachel Polanski's podcast, Bomb City USA. It's on every single podcast platform. This is just a glimpse into the kind of the work that she's been doing over the past year. I highly recommend it. Okay, now let's talk about present day Cleveland Browns news. A lot of people are taking a look at whether a Julio Jones trade would make sense for Cleveland. There's a lot of talk about trading Jarvis Landry for Julio Jones that we've seen online. Now, it was 10 years ago that the Browns traded the Atlanta Falcons for the number 6 pick in the 2011 NFL Draft. The Falcons used that pick to select Julio Jones. That turned out pretty okay for Julio Jones, who has compiled so far a Hall of Fame caliber career in Atlanta. Now, we all know how it's been for the Browns over the last decade, but right now, with Jones entering his 11th season, things have changed. And the 32-year-old wide receiver said on Monday on Fox Sports Undisputed, "I'm out of there, man. Right now, I want to win." So he says he's done in Atlanta. He's requested a trade. So our 3 News sports analyst Ben Axelrod takes a look at the pros and cons of what it would look like for the Browns to make a trade for Julio Jones to come to Cleveland. If you want to see the verdict, you got to go to WKYC.com, but he lays it all out there, including what the cost would be and what the benefit would be and what that might mean for the Browns closing the gap on the Chiefs and the Bills in the AFC. Now, if you are a betting person, you might be interested in the sports odds. Well, the Cleveland Browns have long shot odds of landing Julio Jones. According to DraftKings Sportsbook, the Browns have the 13th highest odds at 20-1 for trading for Jones. And an update to share with you. Yesterday, we were talking about how exciting it was that the CLE Tiki Barge was back in business with a brand new boat that holds about 30 people. Well, we saw some video today that was posted and then deleted of the Tiki Barge crashing into the Nautica Queen in Cleveland. Now, Coast Guard officials say 20 people were on board the Tiki Barge at the time, and the Coast Guard Marine Safety Unit in Cleveland is currently investigating the cause of the incident. It happened about 12:50 p.m. on Saturday on the Cuyahoga River here in Cleveland. Now, the Coast Guard didn't report any injuries from the incident, but you have to check out this video. We have it on WKYC.com. The people are a little freaked out as you can see the barge heading right toward the Nautica Queen. And then at the moment of impact, everyone kind of just goes quiet. And then the barge sort of bounces back into the river away from the Nautica Queen. You got to check it out. Again, the Coast Guard said no injuries from the incident, thankfully. All right, that's it for your 3 News Now update today for Tuesday, May 25th. I'll see you next up on What's New with your trending stories in the Clicking in Cleveland segment, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for more 3 News Now. Between now and then, everyone stay safe and be well. I'm Stephanie Haney.